Hello viewers, welcome back. Today we're diving into an emotional and haunting psychological drama, Take Shelter, 2011, a story about fear, faith, and the line between sanity and truth. Let's begin. The film opens in small Ohio town, where Curtis experiences intense apocalyptic dreams. He sees and hears rain that looks and sounds like thick motor oil. Disturbed by these hallucinations, he decides to keep everything hidden from his wife, Samantha, and their deaf daughter, Hannah. After breakfast and going over their daily plans, Curtis heads off to his job at a construction company. But due to heavy rainfall, work is cut short, so he goes to a bar with his friends. Later that night, Curtis drives his friend Duart home. While sitting in the car, they talk about how perfect Curtis's life appears. Curtis admits that things aren't always as great as they seem, just before Duart's wife arrives to pick him up. When Curtis returns home, he quietly checks on Hannah. Samantha hugs him from behind and mentions that Hannah still doesn't play with other kids, which worries her. She also reminds Curtis to clean up the trash pile out back. As Curtis is gathering the trash, a violent storm begins to roll in. Lightning strikes the ground, and their dog starts barking wildly, as if rabid. Suddenly, the dog lunges at him, then Curtis jolts awake. It was another dream. Shaken, he sits at the table, uneasy about how their dog behaved in his vision. At work the next day, Curtis keeps glancing at his hand nervously, distracted by the memory of the dream, instead of focusing on his supervisor's briefing. Later, he stops by a store to buy a doghouse and fencing to keep their dog outside. While continuing his work, he spots a massive flock of blackbirds swirling in the sky. A sense of dread washes over him, as if it's a sign of something coming. Back home, Curtis completely forgets about their scheduled visit to Hannah's deaf school. Samantha is visibly let down. His dreams keep following the same terrifying pattern, thick, oily rain pouring down. In this latest one, Curtis is driving with Hannah, unable to see the road. He crashes, then hallucinates someone abducting his daughter and choking him. He wakes up gasping for breath. The next day, Samantha and Hannah head to their sales booth, while Curtis stays home looking unwell. He builds the dog a fence and a small house, apologizing to it. It's just how things have to be for now. While outside, he finds a key to the storm shelter and goes inside to check its condition. Meanwhile, at the sales booth, Samantha grows irritated when a customer bargains down her price, but she still accepts the deal, showing that money is tight for the family. Later, she questions Curtis about why he suddenly put their dog outside, since it's always been indoors. Curtis simply replies that it's his dog, and that's how it's going to be. That night, Curtis has yet another nightmare. Rain pours as Hannah stares out the window. As Curtis approaches, he notices a man standing outside. The sight terrifies him. The ground begins to rumble, the power cuts out, and the stranger tries to break in. Furniture starts levitating, as if the house itself is collapsing. Curtis is overwhelmed by pain and fear. He wakes up soaked in sweat, only to realize he's wet the bed. Samantha enters, still concerned about his health, and asks if she should cancel their dinner plans. Curtis insists he'll be fine. After changing the sheets, he takes Hannah to the library and checks out a book on mental illness. On the way home, he stops by a store and stocks up on canned food and other supplies. When he returns, Samantha is entertaining guests. She scolds him for showing up late, leaving Curtis feeling frustrated. During dinner, he mentions his plan to clean out the storm shelter the next morning. He also visits a doctor to ask for something to help him sleep, explaining he hasn't rested properly in 4 nights. The doctor says it's too soon to make any diagnosis, but gives him sleeping pills and the number of a psychiatrist in Columbus. Curtis takes the pills that night, and for the first time in a while, he actually sleeps peacefully. The next morning at the table, Samantha even comments that he looks noticeably better. At work, Curtis seems more composed than before. Curtis gets startled by a loud rumble of thunder, but Duart doesn't hear anything, and the sky remains completely clear. Overcome with panic, Curtis begins to hyperventilate and even vomits, forcing him to leave work early. As his anxiety spirals, he decides to focus his energy on constructing a storm shelter. He purchases a large container and then goes to visit his mother, Sarah, who suffers from paranoid schizophrenia. Her condition began to show around the same age Curtis is now, so he wants to understand how it started for her, wondering if he might be facing the same fate. Later, while filling his car with gas, Curtis decides to cancel his upcoming psychiatrist appointment in Columbus because of the long distance and their financial strain. Even so, His mind remains fixated on calculating costs for building the shelter. Eventually, he takes out a home improvement loan that they can barely afford, all without telling Samantha. Curtis then shares his shelter plans with Duarte and asks for his help. Concerned, Duarte questions if Curtis is okay, and Curtis honestly admits that he's not. Curtis visits a counselor at a free clinic to discuss his family's history of mental illness. Unfortunately, the counselor explains that she isn't a licensed psychotherapist, so she can't provide the help he truly needs. Meanwhile, Curtis increasingly struggles to tell the difference between his hallucinations and reality. One day, while driving with Samantha and Hannah in the back seat, he sees lightning violently striking the ground and nervously asks if anyone else can see it. Breaking work policy, Curtis borrows heavy equipment from his job, with Duarte assisting him in building the shelter. When Samantha comes home from the sales booth, she's quietly upset that Curtis kept both the shelter construction and the home improvement loan a secret. Still, he refuses to open up about his terrifying dreams. Things take a dangerous turn when Curtis accidentally overdoses on his sedative medication and has a seizure. Samantha calls an ambulance, and after he recovers, Curtis finally confides everything to her, detailing his vivid nightmares and strange visions. He explains how real they feel and hopes she can understand the reasons behind his behavior. He even tells her about a particularly disturbing vision in which Duarte attacked him with a pickaxe. Soon after, Curtis speaks to his superiors and requests Duarte be removed from his crew. He and Samantha then start preparing for Hannah's cochlear implant surgery, which is scheduled in 6 weeks and will be covered by his job's insurance. Curtis's brother Kyle comes by to visit, and Curtis gives him their dog. That night, Curtis has another nightmare. He hears thunder echoing, and when he looks up, Samantha is standing in the kitchen, soaked to the bone, silently staring at him with a knife behind her. This unsettling vision makes him fearful of his own wife. Not long after, Curtis's boss finds out about the borrowed work equipment and fires him on the spot, offering only 2 weeks of continued medical insurance. When Samantha learns what happened, she slaps Curtis and storms off with Hannah, furious. Curtis later goes back to the free clinic, only to find that his counselor has unexpectedly transferred and been replaced. Frustrated, he walks out. Tension grows between Curtis and Samantha following his job loss, especially with Hannah's surgery coming up. Worried that Samantha might leave him, Curtis agrees to see a proper psychiatrist. Samantha also insists that they attend a community event to try and bring a sense of normalcy back into their lives, using the money they had been saving for a beach trip. At the Lions Club community dinner, a bitter Duarte confronts Curtis about being cut from the crew after all they've been through. The argument escalates quickly. Duarte throws a punch at Curtis, and in a fit of rage, Curtis knocks him to the ground, flips over a table, and delivers a terrifying, furious outburst directed at everyone present. Curtis delivers a frantic, almost prophetic warning, shouting that a massive, destructive storm is on its way and that no one is truly prepared for what's coming. His outburst turns the entire neighborhood against them. Later, while Curtis is working under the hood of his car, Hannah wanders out into the street. He rushes to grab her and suddenly notices a swirling flock of black birds overhead, with a violent storm rapidly approaching. Out of nowhere, the birds start plummeting from the sky and a tornado warning blares. He jolts awake. It was just another nightmare, except the tornado siren is real. Curtis and Samantha quickly grab Hannah and rush to their storm shelter, putting on their gas masks as the storm rages. Eventually, they fall asleep inside. Samantha wakes Curtis, urging him to take off the mask. She gently asks him to open the door, but Curtis refuses, convinced that the storm hasn't ended yet. She pleads with him, insisting that what he's afraid of is just in his head. Outside, everything seems quiet. After a tense moment, Curtis finally pushes open the shelter doors, revealing bright sunlight. A strong but manageable storm has passed. Neighbors are already clearing fallen branches and debris, while power company trucks work on restoring electricity down the street. Later, a psychiatrist meets with the couple and advises them to still go on their annual beach vacation as planned. However, he explains that after they return, Curtis will need to receive proper psychiatric treatment at a facility away from home. At Myrtle Beach, Curtis plays in the sand with Hannah, building sandcastles. Hannah looks up and signs the word storm. As Samantha steps out of their beach house, thick, oily rain, just like Curtis described in his visions, begins dripping onto her outstretched hand. She slowly raises her gaze toward the sky, where enormous, menacing storm clouds gather over the ocean. Massive waterspouts stretch down toward the sea, and the tide pulls back, signaling an incoming tsunami. Samantha and Curtis lock eyes, and she whispers softly, "Okay," offering reassurance as the scene abruptly cuts to black, leaving the reality of what's happening unresolved. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you want more videos like this.